You're listening to the Synergy Leadership Podcast, a discussion with engaging, empowering, and enlightening leaders about the greatest competitive advantage in business and entrepreneurship that often goes unrecognized: a team's energy. Here's your host, the woman who puts the energy in synergy, Karen R. Jenkins.
Hello, and welcome to this issue of Synergy Leadership. I am so honored to have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Michael Zipursky. Now, Michael has a lot of experience working with consultants and entrepreneurs. And before I attempt to share his background, I think he'll do a much better job of that. So Michael, would you, again, first of all, thank you for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. But I would like for you to share your background and give a little flavor of who you are with our audience.
Yeah, my pleasure, and great to be with you again, Karen, and to be speaking with you. So I've been building consulting businesses for the last almost 23 years now. Started out of or kind of first year university and began a consulting business with my cousin and business partner Sam. Later went on to start another consulting business, and this time I went over to Japan, opened up a branch office for our business over there. Had the pleasure and honor of working with some very large organizations like Panasonic and Dow Jones, Financial Times, Sumitomo, a whole bunch of others. Later came back to North America. This time started another consulting business focusing on professional services firms. So helping investment companies, insurance companies, other consulting firms, really around the area of lead generation. And it was around that time that we decided we wanted to start a business that could really run online, that would allow us to travel and work from anywhere in the world, really to create that level of freedom that we were, desiring in our lives. And Sam and I have always been interested in different cultures and people and, religion. We're international citizens. We love the world. So we want to be able to have a business anywhere. And it was around that time when we just started to share our experiences of what it was like building consulting businesses, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the roadblocks, with the goal and intention to help others who wanted to become consultants or just take their consulting business to that next level, avoid the common pitfalls and mistakes. Certainly, we've made many of them. And so we hope that we could help people fast track their success. And so fast forward to today, we specialize in helping entrepreneurial consultants build profitable, scalable, and strategic consulting businesses. We work with those who are already well established in the consulting industry and really want to put a better marketing system in place. They want to scale their business. They want to get the right team and the right systems and the right pricing strategy. But we also support those that are looking to transition from the corporate world or being an executive and being an employee to starting a consulting business. They have a lot of expertise and knowledge and skills, but oftentimes they're looking for the business side. Like, how do I actually set my pricing and fees? How do I approach proposals? How do I market? And how do I position myself? And how do I identify who I should really focus on? So all the business areas of consulting, that's really what we've been specializing in helping consultants for the last 13 years now.
Awesome. That is an awesome background. And the fact that you've been doing it for 23 years says a lot. When we talk about, for example, and I'll use myself as an example, I was forced into entrepreneurship. I did not plan it. I had been in banking and mortgage banking for a total of 23 years, and that's where I plan to stay. And then right before the 2008 crash, I got laid off in 2007, and I worked for a mortgage company, so they saw it coming. I did go into the arena of consulting, and I did have the struggle of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I know I have a skill set that I've built over these last 23 years, and now I'm trying to convert it into a business strategy, and what does that look like? Talk about how what made you go in this path? I was forced, so I felt like I was thrown out in the ocean, without a raft, and I had to learn how to swim. What was passionate about you? What was that thing that made you decide to take this leap?
Yeah, so I'll have to go back to my high school days and just kind of come clean and share that I didn't read a book, a whole actual book, until probably 15, 16 years of age. My early days was all in sports, and that's just where I spent my time. I did not enjoy reading. I always used to kind of read the Cole's Notes. Those kind of summarized versions of books, and even that was a struggle to get by. But I ended up going on a trip to Thailand when I was around 15 years old, or maybe I was actually even 14 years old, with my father and my stepmother. And my world was blown. Like something just triggered inside me. Even though I had lived in different countries, I spent about 4.5 years in Israel as a child. And so I was exposed to a lot of different cultures and languages and tensions and all that kind of stuff, that whatever I could understand at that young age. But when I went to Thailand, something clicked, and I just really became interested in other things. I went from being interested in sports to being more interested in like arts and poetry and reading. And so my quest for knowledge really began. And so I started to read a lot. And pretty quickly, I realized that I was interested in a few very specific things. I was interested in business. I was interested in the world, and I was interested in Asia. And I think part of the Asia part of it was because at that time I was in Vancouver, where actually I am right now. And we have a very big influence, like a big Asian influence here. And so I was surrounded by a lot of, people from Japan and Korea and China and Taiwan and Hong Kong. And so all these things kind of came together. And so I started to read a lot at that time around business. And so I was consuming marketing books and sales books and psychology books and persuasion and, all these things that are kind of related to business, especially kind of around marketing and strategy. And so pretty quickly, as I was accumulating this knowledge at that stage, I started having conversations with other people who were business owners. For example, one of my earlier clients was a law firm, and I met the partner and owner of that law firm at kind of an extended family, or just kind of friends of family type of lunch one day, and we got to talking. And I was asking him some questions about his law firm and his business. And very quickly, what I realized is that even though I was still young, my knowledge of marketing was far greater than his knowledge of marketing. So he had a successful law practice and he was great at law, but he didn't know much about marketing. And so I started working with him and helping him to generate leads and to really grow his business. And so that's kind of how I entered into this realm of marketing. And also, our first business, my cousin Sam and I, we started, was around web design and development. And so this was the early days of people, developing websites, when it was still pretty complicated to figure out how to do that. No one really had an idea. And so we just started to kind of like looking at the people that we knew and family, friends, and others. And we said, hey, like we can help you with websites. And so my cousin really focused on the design development, and my area was more around the client communications, the marketing, the business development side of things. And so my start was really, it wasn't a formal practice or a kind of formal development of like becoming a consultant. It was more, in being interested in entrepreneurship, learning and then applying those skills, not waiting to have anything perfect, because I certainly didn't know what perfection was, but I was just applying what I knew. And that's really how you learn best, right? I mean, you can study about marketing or strategy very deeply in school or get your MBA, but until you actually apply that into the real world, you won't know whether what you know works or not. And so that's kind of how I got my start. And then from there, formalized and continued to learn and invest in my own coaches and mentoring and all that kind of, over the last couple decades.
Well, that's awesome. So I heard a couple of nuggets. One was secret to your success, or secret sauce, was reading. And I'm an avid believer that you have to invest in yourself, either in reading or going to some type of professional development, or both. And I have been told and heard and learned just over the years that I've been in business, that those people that are successful read no less than 1 to 2 books a month. And they're not tied to the television. They're not tied to social media. So along those lines, you have written, I think, 5 books, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 formal books. I guess we could lump it in 5. We put them all together, but that's right.
So out of the 5 books that you've written, is there a common thread of information or a common point that you always tend to come back to, that you always share out of all 4 that you, or 5 that you've written as an author?
I mean, there's more than one, right? I mean, it's hard to really narrow on just one thing.
Okay.
Certainly one of them would be mindset, right? The importance of mindset. And in fact, it's so important that I dedicated a whole book to it. The book is called The Elite Consulting Mind. And the reason I wrote that book is because I very quickly, or I shouldn't say quickly, over time, but I think it came to me quickly once I saw it, was that you could have somebody who had a lot of knowledge, They had a lot of information. They had great skills. Like, in fact, they actually knew, or some people listening right now might know what they need to do, but they're still not doing it, right? So you might know that you need to outreach and get in front of ideal clients and trying to have conversations or follow up or do speaking or whatever it is that you know that you need to do that will help you to grow your business, but you're not doing it. And so the question is, why aren't you doing it? And so I realized that you could have all the strategies and tactics in the world, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to take action. And if you don't take action, you're not going to get results. So in the Elite Consulting Mind, what I broke down was 16 of the most common mindset kind of, challenges, roadblocks, obstacles that consultants, although it really could apply to all different areas of entrepreneurship, that we tend to face, whether it's around pricing or having conversations or deciding on who an ideal client should be. All these things that very often come up and hold us back. I kind of illustrated and shared stories from our own business and as well as from many of our clients' businesses of how they have kind of confronted and overcome those challenges. So I think as I'm kind of sharing this with you right now, Karen, if I had to pull on one thing that carries across every single book or is mentioned in each book, it's probably mindset. Even Act Now, which is one of my more recent books, and I wrote that in April of 2020. So COVID full swing, seeing a lot of people frozen, not sure what to do, a lot of uncertainty and fear. I went out and I talked to other successful consultants that I know and shared what we were doing in our business, what they're doing in their business. And there was certain principles and certainly mindsets that were shared across everyone who has some semblance of success. And certainly mindset plays a really big role in that.
Awesome. And Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, a lot of even the forefathers of business success have always said that is the true thing that will either make or break you. And I love the fact that you have that you actually wrote a book about it, that it resonates throughout all that you do. And it is about mindset. And with Synergy Leadership, and I think I shared this with you when we were talking on your podcast, for me, I tell people that you are responsible for the energy you bring into the room. And a lot of people aren't aware of the energy that they're bringing into the room. And their energy is based on their mindset. So if you see the glass half full, you're probably going to have lower energy. If you see higher energy. If you see it half empty, you're going to have lower energy. And energy to me is contagious, just like mindset. As a leader, if you are in your arena of your team and you're rah-rah and positive and you're thinking this way, your team members are going to feel that, resonate with that, and they're going to run with it. But the same thing happens on the flip side of, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. So now you're spreading that level of mindset. So I think it's very important. And at the end, we'll come back and find out if we wanted to get access to your books. You can share with us how to get in contact with you as well as how we find those books. So we talked about reading as a key component of being successful, whether, again, as an entrepreneur or just a leader in a corporation. We talked about mindset, which I think helps give you that level of confidence to have the knowledge and power to move forward. But you also mentioned mentors. So who have you, or let me back up, I'm assuming you have mentors. And then how did you find your mentors?
Yeah, so I'll make one distinction between mentors and coaches. So I've always surrounded myself with and had the fortune of finding mentors in my life. And when I say mentor, so this is typically somebody who I'm not paying. We have a relationship, and that relationship in some cases might be beneficial to, hopefully it's beneficial to both parties. And sometimes it's a peer, other times it's somebody at a much higher level, could be in terms of age, experience, success, whatever, whatever that kind of criteria might be. And then a coach is somebody that we make an investment into. And so I've certainly been fortunate to have many mentors, even from a young age. Being in sports, you have a coach. You're not paying that coach, but that person kind of becomes a mentor to you because you look up to them. When I was in Japan, I was very fortunate to have a few mentors. And really, I didn't think about them as mentors, maybe as actively in that moment, I really saw them as kind of friends and, business colleagues, because we would spend so much time together, whether it was, working actively on projects, going out and having drinks, doing little travels, things of that nature. But the success that we as a company experienced in Japan, I have absolutely zero doubt, like we would have not experienced that level of success without those people in my life. And so I feel very, very grateful and fortunate to have had that kind of mentorship and support, especially in a different country where it's a different culture, a different language. There's so many little nuances, and a country like Japan where there's a lot of history, right? So there's a lot of things that kind of run below the surface that you don't really understand unless you are talking to somebody and really like listening and watching closely. So that was one big thing. But the reason I wanted to make that distinction is because I also really believe that coaching is incredibly powerful. And for me, the proof is just, if you look out at the most successful people in any walk of life, if we look at athletes, right, they have coaches. And like, there was someone made a really good statement once. I heard it, I think, on some podcast, where they said, like, look at Usain Bolt, right? So the Jamaican sprinter, the best in the world, let's say at that time, right? I don't think he was in the latest Olympics. I haven't followed that too closely, but I remember back in the day being very impressed, watching a bit of a documentary on him. And you look at his coach and you think, well, why does he have a coach? He's the best in the world. Like, what's a coach going to teach him about running that he doesn't know? That, like, and look at the coach. Like, the coach doesn't even look like he could even, keep up with, like, how can he learn from this person? But there's obviously things, right, that you can learn from a coach. And that's that external perspective. So whether it's sports or it's a singer, an artist, a person in business, the best in the world always have coaches and people around them helping them to improve. And so that's something that once we realized, and I'd say it took us a while to really decide to make that kind of investment. Like, it was years into the start of our businesses where we really thought, like, we need to get some external help, because there's things that for sure we're not seeing, that if we could see and could start to implement, we would see success a lot faster. And once we got a taste of what coaching could provide, and that kind of external guidance and counsel could provide for us, we were hooked. And so we've always had coaches in our lives. There are times where we might go a few months or a little period of time without working with a coach, but we're almost always working with a coach. And it might be in a specific area, it might be more in general, but bringing people that have wisdom, knowledge, experience, skills that we don't have to give us that perspective, I feel has always provided us with an edge. And I think that it can provide anybody with an edge as long as they're willing to make that investment into coaching.
Perfect, because that's exactly where we were going. So thank you for taking us there.
My pleasure. We're connected.
We are. So it's reading. It was mindset. We talked about mentors, and then ultimately the coach. And I have a coach, and I'm actually looking at entertaining getting a second coach, because you have seasons, right, in your life where you might have a specific need and you're at a specific place in your life, and then you need a coach to help you get from point A to point B. But the coach that might need to get you from B to C might be a different coach with a different skill set. So I'm a true believer in having a coach. I am a certified coach, but even being a certified coach, I know there's still things that I need. And I agree, mentoring, and I've had mentors, and here was my myth, Michael. I thought that a mentor, and I'm glad you mentioned this, I was praying for a mentor. I need a mentor, I need a mentor, I need a mentor. And I always thought that mentor had to be somebody that was, 25 years older than me or 20 years older than me, that had been there, done that, blah, blah, blah. And then my reality after I kind of looked back at it, and I thought that I didn't have one, but I did. I had peers, I had colleagues, I had some people that I didn't even know, but I watched them from afar.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I read their book, or maybe I went to their conference, and those people served in some capacity as a mentor for me. But it really was that coach that was able to drill down and help me, one, be accountable. Because as entrepreneurs, we have all these little shiny things, right, that take our attention, and it's like, oh yeah, let's go over here. Oh no, let's come over here. Let's go over here. And that coach helps you identify your strategic plan or goals or whatever you're planning to do in a certain period of time. Identify chewable chunks of things that you need to do to get from point A to point B, and then to hold you accountable and to call you on your stuff, right? My coach, I can come and try to tell her well, so, oh, no, sorry, Karen, that one doesn't fly, take the BS and go someplace else with that. And I think it's important for us to have those coaches. So when you look at the fact that you are I'm gonna call you a coach's coach, right? You could be a coach's coach. What is the thing for you that resonates the most of you working with small businesses or big businesses really, and the impact that you have had on other people's businesses and other people's lives?
So just I want to make sure I understand the question. You're asking what's the part of that resonates most with me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so the last 13 years, we've really focused on working with consultants. And when I say consultants, these are the definition, because it's a term that's used quite loosely these days. But these are people that work with organizations, and it might be a nonprofit, it might be a for-profit, it might be a startup, it might be a mid-sized company, or a global billion-dollar organization. But our clients are consultants and advisors to those types of organizations. Where I've always got the greatest fulfillment and enjoyment, and really what success, where I feel the greatest success is when our clients get results. Earlier on, again, being very transparent, I think I was more focused on the monetary side of business. And I've heard this with lots of others, but in my case anyways, I found that as our business has grown, of course, as a business, we still need to be very focused on our revenue and our profit and all the kind of the business financials, because we have a team, and that's my responsibility, to ensure that everyone's taken care of and that we continue to grow, and we have been. But it's really about helping our clients to achieve success. And so when we hear that a client, for example, and this is just one quick kind of example, but somebody goes from, let's say, an average project value of $25,000 to $65,000 without having to do any more work, but we've shown them how to restructure their pricing, or we've shown them how to adjust the way that they're delivering things, or to put better systems in place. That's a great win, because that financial windfall is not just a win for them. It's a win for their family. It's a win for their community. It's a win for everything else that trickles down from that. Another example would be somebody just really feeling a lot clearer on their path. Like they've gone from not knowing where to focus, who their ideal client should be, what services they should offer, like how to package all those things, to just knowing very clearly, like, this is what I'm meant to do. Like I can now see my path. I know exactly what steps to take and be able to execute on that on a regular basis. I think that's also where we get a lot of fulfillment. And then the third area, which really resonates with me a lot, is those who the reason that they left the corporate world and want to start their own consulting business is because they want to spend more time with their family, right? They wanted to have that freedom. And even those who don't have kids, I think, can still appreciate the desire that so many of us have to realize our full potential and to have more freedom to do the things that we want. But I know for many clients, when they exit the corporate world and now they want to spend more time with their kids or a spouse or a partner, whatever it might be, when they're able to do that, it's like, yeah, I've built this up. I now have a team. I have systems in place. Revenue, like profits going great. But I'm also able to take my kids on a trip here, and like we're just in a much better place in our lives. That for me is just like that puts a smile on my face.
Awesome. So I think you just gave us the benefit of having a coach or consultant work with us as small businesses, because when we first start out in that business, and I saw in another podcast that you had, one of your quotes was, and it's one that I truly believe in, is that you have to work on and not in your business. So talk to us a little bit about that. Why are you so adamant about that being a key component based on what you just shared?
Yeah, it's a great question, and have to attribute that quote to Michael Gerber. I think in the EMyth, that's probably where it first came out, of working on the business rather than in the business. And so many consultants become guilty of this, and it's not anyone's fault, because I think most of us are trained initially to focus on doing great work for clients, and like what matters is delivering, and more importantly, delivering value and results for clients. But the problem with that is, if you're only doing that, then you're essentially, you can still call yourself a consultant, but really, in fact, you end up almost being more like a contractor, where you're doing the work, but you're not building a business. And I had this conversation with a new client that came into our Clarity coaching program, probably now about three months ago or so. And he's a very successful consultant, works with some big name firms. And I said to him, the first time we talked, I said, listen, you're doing great, but you don't have a business. And for a moment, like he was kind of taken aback by that statement, because I wasn't being nice about it, but at the same time, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just like, honestly, you don't have a business here. Like what you're telling me is that you want to have something that looks like a business, but you have success as a kind of a consultant doing work, but you're essentially a contractor. You don't have a business.
Right.
And I think he really appreciated that, because he continued to mention that over and over again. Like even when we have different calls in our community, he often says, yeah, Michael told me this. So he's now teaching it to other people. And I love that. But the reason why it's so important is because if you're only focused on delivering work, then what will very quickly happen is you're going to find yourself in this kind of feast or famine type of roller coaster cycle, where you might have a client that's paying the bills and even paying you, a great sum of money for a period of time. But when that stops, and sometimes that'll stop before you expect it to stop, then you have to go and figure out, well, where's that next client come from? And you might initially have some, fortune where people are just giving you business through your network. But I've never met one consultant that can just continue with that forever. There's at some point, if you want to grow beyond where you are, like if you're okay maintaining at your current level, then maybe what you have around you is okay. But if you actually want to achieve a greater impact, like impacting more people, if you want to be able to create more value in the world, if you want to be able to grow the business financially and also build a team, or even if you don't want to build a team, but you just want to be able to earn more, have more freedom, make a bigger impact, then you can't do that simply by just being only yourself and focusing only on delivering services or products. You have to think about building a business. And so as consultants, right, I think Alan Weiss that's probably where I remember hearing it many years ago, but we're not in the consulting business, we're in the marketing business. And I think that's a really true and powerful statement, because if you don't work on marketing your business, you're going to inevitably end up at a point where you don't have a business, right? You have your expertise. And I think that a real, hopefully a way that could illustrate and demonstrate this is, if you're very good at what you do, but you have no clients, then you don't have a consulting business. You don't have anything, right? So, and then your expertise goes to waste. And so if you're doing the marketing, if you're building the relationships, if you're doing everything you need to be successful in that realm, working on the business, then you'll be able to actually apply your expertise. And there's a kind of a level that goes beyond that. So it's in your business, on your business, but then you can actually get to a place where you can work above the business. And above the business is where you really start to operate more like a CEO, more like a higher level leader. And that means that you've put a team in place, you have systems in place. You're still connected to the business, but you have a view of what's happening over the entire business, because you're not in the weeds doing everything. So there'll typically be a transition from a solo consultant who is doing all the work in the business. Then they start kind of giving a bit more time to working on the business. And then as they put more systems and team in place, then they're able to start kind of moving slightly above the business. And for many people, the goal becomes to not actually do any of the delivery themselves. Rather, they would just want to work, above and on the business totally.
Awesome, which leads to that work-life balance, because you have the systems in place, you have the people in place that you can go off and go away from the business for 30 days and the business is still functioning. They didn't miss you because you're not part of that intricate day-to-day operation that is required to provide services to your business. So I love that process of what we've talked about today. We've talked about how do you go about starting this thing of getting the right mindset. We have to educate ourselves and read books. We have to have the right mindset. And then we go into identifying and making sure that we have great mentors. But even more than that, we have coaches that will help us move that yardstick so that we're getting yardage to make that ultimate touchdown. And you said it, your overall success for you is seeing the results that your clients are receiving in having increased revenues, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. And then by making sure that after we build this infrastructure, in the beginning, you have to work in it, but now we want to work on it. And then we get to a point where we're working above it. And now we're at a point where we have this work-life balance where we can enjoy the fruits of our labor. Who wants to work all day and then get home and then you can't spend time with your family? Mm-hmm. Can't walk the dog. There's no time to spend with the kids. There's no time to do anything. So you have a great plan. As we get ready to wrap up, I want you to share with us, if you have one piece of advice for our audience as it pertains to leadership or even entrepreneurship or business, what would that advice be?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a big question because you mentioned both leadership and entrepreneurship.
Choose one, or if you want to do both.
Yeah, no, I think so. One of my biggest beliefs, and I say this a lot to our clients, but it's this concept of imperfect action. I think so many of us have the ability to achieve greater results and potential, and just overall achievement and success in our lives, but we hold ourselves back. It's nothing external. It's ourselves. It's our mindset, right, that is holding us back. And one of the reasons why we're holding ourselves back is because we believe that we need to have things in a better state than they actually need to be, right? We're looking for things to be perfect. And this is why you find so many people who could really create a lot of value, could solve a lot of problems, but they're not building their business because they're so busy building things, right? They're playing with their website, they're working on their business plan, they're thinking about all these other things that will help them to prepare, but they're not actually getting out and having conversations with ideal clients. And if you're in the consulting business, or if you're in any professional services business and you want to grow your business, the number one thing that you should be focused on initially is conversations. That's where you're going to learn the information that's going to actually help you to make improvements in your business. That's where you'll be able to learn whether your messaging is on point, whether you actually have identified the right ideal client, whether your service offerings resonate and align with what your ideal clients want, whether your pricing is facing resistance or not. All these things, whether your marketing will work, like all the things that you're actually likely thinking about right now, wondering will they work or not, and somebody might be obsessing about those things, trying to perfect them before getting them out there. Well, the way to actually get the feedback that you're desiring is not just to think about it yourself more. This is why you want to bring in coaches or other people to give you that external perspective. But most importantly, you want to get it out into the world and see how it performs. And that's how you're able to make improvements. And so, you shared a really good kind of analogy or metaphor from football. And I'll take one from baseball for a moment, which is if you look at even some of the best baseball players in the world, right? The people that enter the Hall of Fame. Well, you can enter the Hall of Fame striking out 7 out of 10 times, right? You have a 300% batting average. Like that's considered pretty solid. Well, Think about that for a moment. These are professional athletes at the top of their game. They have every advantage and level of support and technology and medicine and trainers. They have the best people around them, but they still strike out 7 out of 10 times. So who are we to think that somehow we need to be batting 80% or 90% or 100%? That doesn't exist, right? There's no one in the world that has a 900% batting average, at least not that I know of. So I think we need to be a little bit more realistic with ourselves and just appreciate, like, yeah, cool. Like, let me just see, maybe I'll start off with 150% and then not 200% and then 300%. And maybe I can even get to 400 or 500%, but let's not obsess about that. Let's just try things and see how they work and make improvements and get external kind of guidance and support to help us to accelerate the success that we want. That's really what I would want to encourage people to kind of think about it and hopefully embrace and apply.
Awesome. So in reference to your book, Act Now, we miss 100% of the shots we don't take, right? Awesome.
There we go.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed spending this time with you today. And I want to give the audience an opportunity to reach out to you if they want to look at how we go about getting your books, how we go about learning more about your programs. Can you share that with us before we leave?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone is welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just put a little note, hear me on the Synergy Leadership Podcast, Karen's podcast here. So I'll know where you're coming from. Always happy to connect with great people. Home base for everything that we do is consultingsuccess.com. You can find the Consulting Success podcast there. We also have kind of a compilation of our most popular articles. So if you're looking to grow a successful consulting business, we have a blueprint available completely for free that you can access right away. And you can get that by going to consultingsuccess.com/blueprint.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Michael. And we thoroughly enjoyed all the great information and tips that you've had. And to our audience, thank you again for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode of Synergy Leadership Institute. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Synergy Leadership Podcast with Karen R. Jenkins. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe, rate, review, and share our show. See you next time.